Good morning, everyone. I see that most of the students already connected. Please turn on your cameras and tell me if you can see and hear me well. Anyone?
Yeah, you sound fine.
All right. Welcome to the first day of the school. I hope you had great activities yesterday. I just maybe I'll ask your help if you will have any sounds that would make listening to my lecture complicated. Just let me know, all right? Because I have open window, and if it will be too loud, just let me know. Don't hesitate any time to write in the chat or to tell me out loud, all right? So I think it's time to start. We cannot wait. Maybe we can wait for one more minute because it is the first day. Maybe not everyone set yet or found the link. But I think the WhatsApp chat is very useful. So you can always find the links and all relevant information there. Maybe write in the chat number 1 if you already within our WhatsApp chat. I just want to see maybe someone is missing. Just write number 1. It would mean that yes, you are in our WhatsApp chat. Very nice. All right. And write 0 if you don't know what I'm talking about. All right, so far so good. Yeah, we will be using this WhatsApp chat, and by the end of today's class, you will receive the web link for the table that will contain all the links for the recordings of the lessons, for the tests, and your feedback forms. So all the links will be gathered at one place and always replicated and duplicated within the chat. So don't worry, we hope that you won't miss any valuable information. For now, I think we are ready to start, and I will start with sharing my screen. All right. I hope you can see my screen well. Just show some sign, and then I will continue. Do you see my screen with the red side?
Yes.
Thank you. So welcome to our School on Sustainable Development Strategies. My name is Ekaterina Markelova, and I am a PhD in Earth, Environment, and Universe. And today I will introduce myself, and I hope that I will learn a little bit about yourself, where you're coming from, what are your previous experience on the sustainability topic, and what are your expectations from this course. My bio is maybe a little bit unregular because the sustainability topic is really a new topic that is appearing during last 5 years, and we have different experts with different backgrounds. So that I believe that each of you will finally become also the sustainability expert or advisor, because all previous experience is relevant. As to me, I was born in Russia, in a city called Dimitrovgrad, which is actually quite close to Samara, but it is not Samara. It is 200 kilometers away. I then studied in Moscow at the People's Friendship University of Russia, and my major specialty is ecology, it's industrial ecology. It's basically how we are doing business and how it impacts environmental conditions. After Russia, I went for research to Germany, where I studied the impact of car industry. specifically it was BMW, what environmental impact they have during their activities. It could be pollution, it could be resource extraction, different kind of activities and impact. After Germany, I went for my PhD to get 2 degrees in Earth, Environment and Universe, one in Canada, University of Grenoble, where I received the specialty geochemistry, and the second one is in France. Well, Canada is University of Waterloo and France is University of Grenoble. And I became an expert in biogeochemistry. This is an interdisciplinary field that is looking into the interconnections between microbiology, geochemistry, geology, and chemistry of water. And this is the key of system thinking for personally myself. As you will see in this school that sustainability requires systems thinking and interdisciplinary thinking. So the field of science, biogeochemistry, is the perfect example how we can merge different knowledge to see the big picture that we need for sustainable development of the business and the planet in overall. Well, right now I'm speaking to you from Spain. I live in Barcelona because I work at the consulting company. Well, I used to work at the consulting company, environmental consulting company, that was helping for different business activities to become more environmental friendly. But right now, already half a year, I work as a sustainability advisor at underwater gardens. And later in the course, I will show you what is underwater gardens and why we are not only the sustainable business, but also regenerative business. So this is a next step following from sustainability to regenerative development. And since I have this unique experience, I'm very glad to share it with you. Maybe in the chat you can write 1, it would mean yes, and 0, it would mean no, if you ever heard about regenerative development. Please write in the chat. Because it is more or less famous, the sustainable development, but regenerative development is the next step. And I see that so far you haven't heard about it, and I think it means that you will learn about this concept within this course. And I'm happy to introduce this concept to you. And Fernando wrote 2. I'm not sure what it means. Maybe it means that he's excited to find out.
I tapped the wrong number, sorry.
What did you want to write?
I wanted to write it 0, but I typed it number 2. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. Well, it's great to know. Okay. I just will make some notes for myself because, you know, this program is very live. Our lecturers and myself, we will be asking sometimes few questions to understand better the audience because everyone comes with a different background. So we will try to adjust our materials more specifically to you, so it will be more useful for you. Okay, thank you very much for answering, for participating. And we continue. Well, you can read some other storylines from my bio. I won't go through all of them, but just in case if you have any questions, you are always free to contact me personally or ask me during the lectures. Today we will have 2 parts of the class. The part 1 will be 1 hour. Oh, just a second. We will speak about the Sustainable Development Agenda in general. Then we will have an electronic coffee chat. That's what we call when we split students into groups. And today's intention is just basically to get to know each other, to get the to create the environment of this course and to see if we are going to develop during this course in the same direction. Before the break, we will speak or brainstorm about some facts or some issues why business often gets sustainability wrong. And this is very important to mention in the beginning of the school, as most of the times when we speak about sustainability, it's a little bit exaggerated, the positivity or the impact that we can create. So in order to set our boundaries and to set ambitious but realistic goals, it's really useful to take a look why business often gets sustainability wrong. And then at the second part, we will see the big picture of what is happening with the world right now, to see where are the options for the development, for the growth, and at the same time to see the limits of the growth. And by the end of the class, we will take a look at the roadmap of the school, the agenda of the classes that I believe everyone has by now. Just a second. I'm pretty sure that everyone knows about the Sustainable Development Goals, but I want to tell you a little bit about the history, how it developed. And it started already in 1987 with the Brundtland Report, where they said that to have our common future, we need to understand that we have our own world and we have the only one Earth to live. So it was important to set ambitious global thinking, because before every country was acting separately. And it led somehow to Millennium Development Goals, which were set in 2000. And these goals were mainly focusing on the poverty of people, or how to eliminate the hunger and eliminate the poverty. So it was mainly this social dimension of the sustainable development as we know it by now. And over 12 years it was developed, and scientists and businessmen and also politicians, they came to conclusion that it's not enough to focus only on social dimension that would nurture the community. It is also important to introduce environmental goals. And these goals, they are based on the planetary boundaries. We will speak about planetary boundaries later on. This is a scientific concept that is basically sort of the basis to set environmental dimension of the Sustainable Development Goals. And of course, we have economic ambitions and we have economic goals because our well-being to some extent depends on the sufficient economic growth, but to some extent can be decoupled of it. And right now we have the Sustainable Development Goals. They are set up to 2030. And it means that it's been already more than a half time period that was dedicated to achieve these goals. And right now we have about 9 years left. I just want to see you when I speak, and I have to figure out how to set my settings. Do you see my share screen now or not? Now you see yourself.
No, I see myself.
All right, thank you. So let me try again. Okay, now.
Yes.
Okay, we can see it.
I can see.
All right, good. Again, in the chat, I would like to ask you to write one if you ever heard about the planetary boundaries. as a basis for Sustainable Development Goals, and 0 if you haven't heard about it. All right, so Planetary Boundaries is a new concept to all of you, as far as I see, right? And if anyone heard about it, feel free to share. Just make note that I will maybe stay a little bit more on the topic. Okay. All right, but I'm pretty sure that every one of you have seen the Sustainable Development Goals. If not, this is the brief overview and more detailed information we will be discussing during the class, during the classes. And during the school, we won't be able to cover all of the goals because otherwise it would take much longer time, not just 2-week school. And within this school, we will be focusing mainly on the some of the goals, like goal number 6, which is clean water and sanitation. Goal number 7, affordable and clean energy. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. 9 as innovation and industry. And here I will tell you about my experience of regenerative development and at underwater gardens. We will focus also on 11, sustainable cities and communities. Is basically the scale up of technologies from one company to entire city. Goal number 12, responsible consumption and production. This is relevant to any company, and we will be speaking about the circular economy, principles of eco-design and sustainable product design. Goal number 13, climate action. It will be, there will be a lot of information dedicated to this goal because climate change is one of the relevant environmental issues along with others. But what we will see is that right now there is a big investment flow into the companies that can show that they create positive impact to climate change mitigation. We will also mention number 14, life below water, 15, life on land, and 17 is partnership for the goals. Sometimes we see that these goals are separated by dimensions like economy, society, and the biosphere. Sometimes it's correct to do, sometimes it's incorrect because all of these goals have strong connection between each other, and changes in one goal affect the other goal. But anyway, this is useful to see that the biosphere, our environmental dimension, is the core, which is serving the basis for the development of society. And within the society, we can develop economy and not the vice versa. We cannot develop economy without the healthy society, and we cannot have society without the sustainable biosphere. So this is something to keep in mind, why all 3 dimensions have to be taken into consideration altogether and not separately. When we speak about this sustainability, since it is a not brand new, but relatively new concept, what we see in different scientific papers or in journals or in the ratings between the companies is that sometimes is interpreted into different ways. So here I would like to cite the very first sustainability definition from Brundtland report, that sustainable development is the development that, although it meets the needs of us in present, it does not compromise the ability of future generations to grow. And since it was defined in 1987, Now I would like to ask you in the chat, who was born after 1987? Please write 1 if you was born after and 0 if you was born before 87. All right. So I see that most of you was born after 87, and it means that the entire sustainability agenda, it was meant for you because you are the future generation. So it was meant for you, and the movement that is created in the world right now concerns each of you, and each of you has power to be a good contribution to this change. So I think this is something inspiring, that our generation is acknowledged that we have rights for our future to be sustainable and fruitful. And again, as I mentioned, the development of human is possible within our social economic achievements, which respect our environment. And the sustainable development can be found only as an interplay between all 3 dimensions. Again, sometimes we see that companies, they focus mainly on the social development. Some companies focus on economic development. Some companies only do green business, focusing on the environmental dimension. But even green companies cannot be called sustainable. And that's what we will see later on. What's the difference between green companies and sustainable companies? Because sustainability is a complex interplay between these 3 dimensions. And even though if you're doing green positive impact to environment, you have to make sure that the social and economic dimensions are also met. These sustainable development goals and agenda, they were set at the governmental level. And basically, governments, they already agreed to meet or at least to move towards these sustainable development goals. But there is, of course, a big part for action for business. And as the Secretary General of United Nations, he says it's time to set ambitious goals, but it's also important to communicate transparently about the results. And this is important to keep in mind, as most often in the sustainability report, we see only positive contribution of a company to sustainable development goals. But what is important not to forget or neglect is to openly, transparently communicate the negative impact, because this could be the key focus to set the goal, how to first minimize the negative impact, then how to go to net zero impact, and then how to go to net positive impact. It is a development. It's impossible to become one day a sustainable company or a sustainable country. And this is accepted at the governmental level. So what is important is to demonstrate the intention of the growth, to demonstrate that you know your current status, your current impact to social, economic, and environmental dimensions, and to show your roadmap, how you are going to change to go from negative to net zero to net positive impact. And this is already would be considered the sustainable company. And in terms of the investment, I have the data up to 2018, and I'm pretty sure that now it's changing even more. This is the flux of investment into the companies that try to demonstrate their sustainable intention. And again, as I mentioned, sometimes intention is already good enough to get the investment. And for example, over the just 5 years from 2012 to 2018, the investment in Europe doubled. But for example, in Japan, it increased by 200 times. And right now we see, for example, in Europe that the biggest banks, they're opening new departments to create new investment into the sustainable companies, but also regenerative companies that we will speak about later. So there is financial motivation for companies. So if there is no other motivations why to become sustainable, there is a lot of opportunities and different grants that you can find in Europe and in other countries. And this is just an example how companies who claim their sustainable ratings, that they can be assessed by different parameters based on the ranking program. This is just one example, which considers resource management, is how much and how well energy, water, and waste is managed. And what about greenhouse gas emissions with respect to the impact on climate change? This would be mainly aligned with the environmental dimension. They also check companies for their financial management, what is the innovation capacity, or what is the average employee pay. This is financial dimension, and also the how the employee managed within the company. It is the social dimension. So it is how long the people stay in the company, how much they are involved in the life of the company, in decision making, in the innovation contribution, and the gender, how many women on boards and how many of them are in head positions. And sometimes their company is also assessed through the clean revenue. It is a percentage of the total revenue which is derived from clean products and services. This is a very maybe unusual nowadays because not every company can produce clean revenue, but at least it is intention to show that you know that is possible, and you can also demonstrate it and to be ranked just by intention. And from the variety of the companies all over the world, we can see that it does not matter what your company is focusing on. It could be power generation, it could be food industry, it could be oil industry or petroleum production, it could be communication, or it could be software development, banks, electric utilities, it could be phone company, it could be anything. And as we will see, every company has its footprint, and this footprint could be environmental footprint or electronic footprint. And here again, I would like to ask you to write 10 if it is yes, and 0 if it is no, if you heard about electronic footprint. Electronic footprint, 10 for yes and 0 for no. All right. Well, I see some. Well, once I think it was from the previous. Also wanted to check your attention if, and to ask you write 10 instead of 1, but I see that the concept of electronic footprint is also new to everyone. Well, I think it's great that more or less we have the same background, so it will make us a little bit easier to set the program, to adjust the lectures. So we will speak about electronic footprint, and even today we will already a little bit mention about it when we will speak about why business gets sustainability wrong. All right. And now I would like you to split into groups per 4 people, just to get know each other a little bit. Please tell your name. It could be your official name, but please feel free to share your preferred name or even nickname, how you would like that others would call you. Tell us where you're from, what city, what town, or what country. Maybe share if you had any previous experience on sustainability topic. Yes or no, any experience would be very interesting. If you did not have any experience before, then maybe share why did you decide to join this school, and maybe what are your expectations from this course. And once we will finish working in groups, per 4 people, we will join the entire group, entire class, and I will ask one student from each group briefly to summarize what you have discussed. What countries, what students from what countries in your group, and whatever you discussed, that would be nice to share. All right. So let's see how many of us and how many groups we can create. I think I need a second because I don't have the rights for the to separate the rooms. All right. Just a second. All right. I think I'm getting it soon. If not, then we will just not split and talk and meet each other all together right here, right now. Okay, I have it. All right, so now I don't know if you have experience with different rooms in Zoom. You will be split into different Zooms automatically. You don't have to do anything. Maybe it will just ask you, okay, that you are being sent to a different room. And randomly, you will be grouped per 3-4 participants. And then I will be walking through the groups and joining your conversations. And after we will be done with groups, I will redirect you to this classroom. So just to remember that when we split into the groups, I think maybe in the beginning or by the end of the talk, who will be introducing the summary to the class. And I think that's it. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, guys?
What's up? What's up?
So, what we want to talk about? What are the summarize?
Kon ngopo toh?
Boy,
Jam 4 aku mau AFK, Cok.
Ada apa kau, Lek?
mau ngapa?
Enggak, aku mau pergi sebentar. Ada urusan anjir, baru nanti balik lagi.
Tadi aku juga telat. Ada urusan di notaris.
Nanti aku matiin kamera nggak apa-apa lah ya. Bawa aja lah ya HP-nya ya.
Nggak apa-apa.
Nggak apa-apa.
So we want to summarize. Oh, we have 30 minutes for the introduction.
Introduction, please.
Yes. Maybe you can start from William Danada.
All right. So, hello everyone. My name is William Danada. You can call me Willie or William. It's up to you. I'm from Indonesia, and I'm from a small city, which is called Surakarta or Solo. And actually, I don't have any experience in the sustainable. And the reason why I chose to join the sustainable program is because I think it's interesting to learn about sustainable. I think that's all from me.
Okay, my turn. Hello everyone. My name is Fernando Chandra, and I'm from Indonesia. I live in Pekanbaru. So the reason I'm taking sustainability because I want to learn more about the sustainability. And before that, this is my first time learning about this, and I'm interested because I like Elon Musk. So like Tesla, that's kind of a clean energy, yeah. And that's why I want to know more about the sustainability. That's
Okay,
it.
I'm going next. My name is Magnatia Saputra. I'm also from Indonesia, and prior to taking this class, I already take a sustainability class in my
Thank you.
my university, which is Atma University. I have a lot of questions about sustainability that I think anjir ngeblank cok bangsat. Lanjut Lavin.
Exactly. So,
Now, how about Biba? What
How about
are
you?
your expectations?
My expectation joining this course is I have experience. I need to have experience and about sustainability and create an active experience from the learner. I think that's it. Experience.
Okay,
That's interesting. Okay, so
interesting.
we have same expectation, right? We're all.
Yes, expectation because Indonesia there is not a lot of people that want to develop this kind of sustainable. Most
I
of
hope
us
we go change.
Most of us is tend to
Despite
focus
the fact,
on the economic side.
yeah, and no one cares about sustainability, right? I hope
You can say it like
we
that.
could. Yeah, I hope we
You
could
can say it like
make
that,
the
but
change.
that's too rough, I mean.
Yeah.
Actually, everybody care, but there is no movement, no action.
Yeah. Or maybe too little.
Not that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that much. Okay. So.
materials to create secondary materials for
Yeah.
clothing.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
And when you buy, you know that this is an option for recycled, so you can make a choice. So they also do marketing on that, right?
Yes.
Have you ever bought for yourself clothes from recycled materials?
I do
I'm
actually,
not that.
but not the clothes. There are many others small company in Indonesia. It sells shoes from the recycled materials as well. Three of us is already present. Actually, in the previous semester, it's about the shoes that the materials based from the, if I'm not mistaken, beach the garbage in the beach like that. So
Yes.
it's comfortable as well, and the design is very unique. So it's quite popular in Indonesia.
Do you have them yourself personally?
Yes, I have them.
Do you like them?
Sorry?
Do you like them?
Oh yeah. I like it. It's comfortable.
Yeah, well, this is important to tell your friends because I think sometimes people think that recycled materials are uncomfortable or dirty, or so this is all misconceptions. They a little bit make problematic to sell recycled products. And since you already have and you enjoy by your shoes, it's also something that you can do is to tell your friends about it, not only at the university, but to your family, and try to help the market of recycled materials. Because what is happening right now, there is a big investment and growth into creating the secondary materials, but there is not enough consumption. So we need to increase consumption by buying by ourselves.
Okay.
All right, I will go to check other rooms.
All right.
Maybe you can discuss if you know other shops where you can buy secondary or like recycled materials. Could it be backpacks from, I don't know, North Face, or could it be Mango clothes or whatever? Just brainstorm where you can find the recycled materials. Okay?
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Aku jarang nampak, aku nggak banyak di sini, kebanyakan pakai masker, bukan takut COVID, takut ditangkap, takut
Iya
diomelin polisi.
emang.
Udah
Tangkap
capek
polisi
orang
aja
sini,
dibayar, suruh bayar.
udah malas masih orang nih kayak alah COVID sama aja lah pulang.
How are you?
Yes.
Did
Yes.
you
Hello.
have the opportunity to introduce himself?
Sorry.
Did you already talk to all of you?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So there is an interesting conversation in the other room, and I decided to ask you as well. Have you ever bought secondary materials like recycled materials, recycled clothes or pants or backpacks, anything recycled?
Yes.
What do you have?
Michael?
I bought a lot of piping, piping. I think it's called pipes from a bankrupt factory in Indonesia. So I use it for my business, which is a chicken farm. I use the pipe, so I didn't have to buy new ones. I just bought secondary pipes.
And was the price cheaper, or was the same?
Actually,
or it was more expensive?
A lot cheaper. The new one actually costs, I think, 100,000 rupiah for 1 meter, and the secondary one I think only costs around 20,000. I think it's
Wow, it's
really cheap.
Yeah. So there was a price difference, but was there quality difference? Did you notice? Was it good as well as primary material? What do you think?
I think in the long run, it should break more easily, but I think right now it's function the same.
And for how long do you expect them like to work, to be served?
I don't know. I think at least 5 years for the piping. Yes.
This is a great example because what we see right now is that there is a growing market of secondary materials, of recycled materials, but the society and business not always prepared to make a choice for secondary materials. And this is a problem because in order to help the recycling industry, we need to support and to buy by ourselves and for our business. And the fact that we already have recycled the pipes, this is amazing. So it's actually a big contribution to entire industry. It's not only to one company. And girls, for example, they were saying about the recycled shoes. We discussed that sometimes people hesitate to buy, what is happening? That people hesitate to make a choice for recycled materials, but as long as we see, most often they are cheaper and they last long enough to serve their purpose. It's not necessary, for example, like Coca-Cola can, which is made of metal, it's too good quality to be served only once as a disposal. So this is not sustainable decision, it's not sustainable product design. And if we need products for less time of use or for less intensive use, it's we always need to make a choice for recycled materials or for other options, alternative materials that would provide this function, and that's it.
The sustainability.
Hello.
Hello. So how are you?
We are good. Very good.
I don't know if you have previous experience in sustainability, or maybe I'm already.
No.
Our experience are just in a class.
Yeah.
Previous semester.
All right. Did you have any project work at your class?
Project work on our class. Actually, we don't have it.
We don't have project.
Yeah, just a theory.
I see. And we've been discussing with other students in different rooms the question of recycled materials. Do you personally have ever bought anything from recycled materials? Clothes, shoes, or backpacks, or construction materials? Do you have experience with buying recycled materials or recycled goods?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, I have experience.
And I'm buying the biodegradable plastic when I'm going grocery shopping. I usually use cartons instead of plastics. Yeah.
Okay.
My experience is when I'm going to supermarket, usually they use plastic, but now they change it with with something like clothes to backpack. Yeah, backpack that you see.
Actually, in Indonesia, we don't have a regulation to reduce use, but in some region like Bali, where the Umi Habibah lives in, Bali have a. Bibah, could you tell us about the Bali's regulation about the plastic use?
Okay, first of all, Bali is really concerned about environment. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, please.
we can hear.
Um, okay, Bali is still develop about the sustainability, such as the government is implement a new regulation, which is if we going to groceries or going to mini market, they don't allow to give a plastic bag. Now, like mini market, they use a paper bag. Instead, we need to buy the paper bag. By that, government hope they can reduce the using plastic.
Right. All right. Thank you. It is very interesting to know.
Okay.
I think now it's time to come back to our classroom and just think who one of you will just briefly describe the discussion and about your group. All right. So you will be brought back in 60 seconds. And for your discussions in your small groups. Now we have about 6 minutes so that we will little bit know what we discussed or where from where from your classmates. So anyone from group 1, or if you didn't see the number of your group, just maybe raise your hand who is ready to introduce a little bit your group to the class. Everyone is shy or sleepy.
Miss.
Hi, Elvin. Could you introduce briefly to your talks, discussions, and classmates?
Okay, sure. So, Miss, before I told you about the discussion, I want to tell you that I think most of us here is from the same university, and we are actually from the same class. So I don't think there's any point in, like separating us or introduction, like anything again, doing introductions and anything. I just want to tell you that.
Yeah, it's good to know. Anyway, you are not all, I think, from the same group. So we still have some students who would be interested to learn about you. And introduction was a little bit specific, not only to know your name and location, but also to think about sustainability question. And the name and location is part of it. Without it, it's strange to jump into the topic right away. So please share what you found maybe interesting in discussing.
Maybe I can try.
All right.
Hello everyone, my name is Chandra. I live in Pekanbaru and I'm from Indonesia actually. Okay, the reason I'm taking the sustainability because the first one, because I like Elon Musk. Because Elon Musk have a company which is called Tesla, and it is kind of great company which is a clean energy, and that's why I'm really want to know more about what is sustainability. If I know that the Tesla is cost more at the beginning, but at the end it will cost cheaper than we use a car that use a gas. I think
it's an interesting example, and within the within this school, we have example of Tesla sustainability. I think
Yes.
it will be interesting for you because it's not only positive contribution, there is also
But
some
there's a negative
drawbacks. Yeah. So I'm glad that you mentioned this experience because really it's very famous and it is like a role model for many companies. So it's really important to understand both pros and cons of their business.
That's why I like to know more about.
Yeah. So we will have it.
Yeah, that's it from me.
All right. Anyone else would like to share some thoughts or anything? All right then. Every day we will have a couple of minutes of brainstorming on different topics, and I think there will be more specific than introductions, and then we will share more our personal thoughts. And for now, it's time to go for a break. It's been already 1 hour. We are having 15 minutes break, and then I see you in the same link. You can leave the room or you can stay in the room. It doesn't matter. You just join and turn on your camera in 15 minutes. See you soon. Alex. And now we will start the quite intense materials for the second part of the today's class. So please turn on your cameras and tell me if you can hear me and see me well, and we'll start right now.
Yes, I can hear you.
All
Very
right,
clearly.
Thank you. Well, I hope everyone is here. Slowly we'll be turning on cameras, and yes, I would love to ask to keep your cameras on all the time, because it's gives me impression if you are following or not, and I can adjust respectively. So, as I mentioned, sustainability sometimes is considered super positive, but there are sometimes flaws and drawbacks. And for example, the COVID-19, it's sometimes called as the world's biggest experiment on all dimensions, social, economic, and environmental. And for example, there are some unfortunate results of the COVID that demonstrated that so far we've been acting and doing business unsustainably. And for example, from the energy efficiency point of view, in the States, the analysis demonstrated that there was 80% of consumption of electricity in empty buildings. So it didn't make any sense. Employees, they were working from home, consuming electricity for computers, for light, for refrigerators from home. And at the same time, big buildings, they were still supplied with electricity. And it was for basic lighting, it was for elevators, but still it was 80% of unnecessary energy being used. So sometimes it's a question not only how we produce energy, but also how we use this energy. And the energy management is management that every business company has. It starts from the what kind of bulbs you select to choose, if they energy consuming or saving, if you turn off all the equipment before leaving home, and if you are using the saving energy modes on the computers and the monitors. So all this may seem insignificant, but overall it demonstrated during the COVID that there were big unnecessary waste of energies. And also during the COVID, due to many shops were closed, there were some examples on inefficiency of supply chains to the shops, product shops. So that the transportation system and supply systems, they also can be adjusted more efficiently regardless of COVID. Is just to be more efficient and sustainable for companies for themselves. So on one side, we have the benefits that, for example, due to travel ban, we had much less transport emissions. But on the other side, there was a lot of remote working, and digitalization as a remote working is considered to be one of the solutions for sustainable business. But as we will see soon, it has high electronic footprint. And as I asked you in the first part of the class, we have not only environmental footprint, we have also electronic footprint. And this is important to evaluate when you report your sustainability as a company that is demonstrating intentions to be sustainable. And some of the misconceptions about sustainable business, which are getting lost in the way of implementation. So for example, in the science and technology, we can see that there is a rise of energies from renewable sources. And one of the examples is solar panels. That is really a smart design, how we can convert energy of sun into electrical energy. And ideally, it should be used for the systems where it would be enough. So the roof covering on the house or on the boat, These kind of examples are perfect and excellent to be supplied by solar power. But sometimes we think more that less from the resource efficiency and more from the marketing point of view, so that solar energy is being popularized and being very famous worldwide without the context, without how much actually we need to produce this energy and what climate zone is there. So that, for example, in Germany, in 2012, they installed so many solar panels that they were leading the world on the amount of solar panels. But unfortunately, this year was not sunny. And these factors, they're crucial for the amount of energy you are hoping to get from your installations. So it was completely unsustainable thinking about the rate or ratio between the materials that were used to create the solar fields and the amount of energy that was actually produced and used. And the same happened with the wind turbines. Also the same year, 2012, Germany installed wind turbines all over the country. The reason for this renewable, I'm very careful with this word, renewable energy sources, is that Germany decided to stop all the nuclear plants, and they had to compensate energy losses, and they decided to compensate by building or relying on renewable sources. And it was mainly the solar panels and wind turbines. But what happened, unfortunately, 2012 was not windy in Germany. So they didn't get much energy out of wind, and they didn't get much energy out of the solar panels. And this demonstrated that the same solutions cannot be just popularized in sustainability agendas all over the world. They have to be considered specifically to the context of the environment and all to the society, if the society is also ready to use this kind of energy. And for example, in China, the amount of solar panels that needed to produce required energy is actually the entire field, and they need to cut forest in order to build these panels. So this is a contradiction between environmental dimensions. Do we care about the source of energy more? Like the reason to go to renewable is to avoid greenhouse gas emissions, so that it would have positive impact to climate change mitigation. But doing this, we have to cut trees, which are the only or efficient sinks for carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases. So there is a misbalance of approaches how to tackle the sustainability at the global scale. And itself, the construction of the solar panels, it requires a lot of energy to build because it is made of metals that needs to be melted down into the alloys. And this requires critical raw materials. And critical raw materials, they are rare, and they are hard to mine from the environment, from the lithosphere. So recent articles from 2020, which shows that the renewable energy production actually poses risks to the biodiversity, because the mining for rare earth elements is very aggressive to environment. So on one side, we are trying to keep our carbon dioxide emissions low by using this energy, but on the other side, we are creating other environmental risks within the planetary boundaries. And I will tell you about the planetary boundaries a little later today, but you will see that the climate change and greenhouse gases is only 1 out of 9 planetary boundaries. And by focusing only on one and forgetting about others, we are doing business unsustainably. All right, so next example is what could be wrong in these concepts of sustainability is digitalization and digital economy. And as I mentioned, it is also suggested in most of the governmental programs that digitalization is a step towards decarbonization. What is decarbonization? Is basically to reduce the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And it is considered that going digital, it saves materials, so it produces less carbon dioxide. So it's one of the approaches for decarbonization. But what we can see, every single product that we hold in our hands, it could be pen, it could be our clothes, everything has its own environmental footprint. And this environmental footprint is a sum of different resources, energy, and waste that has been produced during the production, the use, and the disposal of this product. So this entire environmental footprint can be equivalent to carbon dioxide to make it visual. So if it is decarbonization, let's think in terms of the carbon dioxide gas. And for example, one iPhone for one person, it has its environmental footprint of carbon dioxide as 1 ton. It's 1.5 tons of carbon dioxide. But it's hard to say if it is a lot or not a lot. Everything is relative. So just to imagine, this is equivalent to an airplane flight from London to New York 2.5 times. And considering that airplanes that emit a lot of greenhouse gases and carbon dioxide in particular, this is considered a high environmental footprint. So on one side, we are using iPhones or any other phones. And this is great because we avoid other materials being used. For example, we don't need extra device for GPS. We don't need extra TVs, scanners, cameras, alarm clock, voice recorders, calculators, any other functions and applications that you use on your phone. Indeed, they help to save environment because we avoid using extra products that each of them has their own environmental impact and environmental footprint. But on the other side, just the use phase of the phone has its also environmental impact. And this is where we speak about the electronic footprint that becomes environmental footprint. What we mean when we say electronic footprint, it means that, for example, electronic message, which we cannot touch, it still has its footprint. And for example, one SMS is about 14 milligrams of CO2. 1 minute call is almost 60 grams of CO2. And downloading 1 gigabyte of data is 3 kilograms of CO2. So although we cannot touch, but we have electronic footprint that converts to environmental footprint. Because to run all these energy devices and all these functions, we use energy. And it depends in what country you live, that kind of energy will be used. For example, if you live in France, it will be most of the energy green energy because they use nuclear energy, which is so far the most environmental clean energy. But if you live in Russia, this would be mainly coal. We also have nuclear, but mainly still it's coal power plants. So it will be dirty energy, and this would produce even higher environmental impact. So the conversion from electronic footprint to environmental footprint depends on the country where you live and on the source of energy that is used in that country. And for example, Netflix has as big carbon footprint as the biggest cement company. And cement industry is the biggest in the world to emit greenhouse gas emissions and carbon dioxide. So this is sometimes overlooked, and sometimes digitalization has its pros. But as I mentioned, being truly sustainable, we have to calculate all pros and cons to see if we are coming into the net zero impact, or we are finally coming to net positive impact. And the other example is from Soviet Union. I would like to share this example with you is because this school is based in Russia. So this is something you may be surprised, but already in the Soviet Union, we already had environmental friendly technologies. We had very high resource efficiency. We had recycling technologies. All the glass and paper was recycled up to 80%. We had modular approaches for remanufacturing. We had zero waste technologies, eco-industrial parks that were the biggest in the world and so far. So even though that time it was there was no brand name for circular economy, we may say that Soviet Unions were one of the first examples on circularity, how to efficiently use the materials and to produce as much waste as possible. But even though it could be called circular economy, we cannot call it sustainable development. And here I would like to ask you a question in the chat. Well, first question would be 1 for yes, if you heard about the circular economy, and 0 for no. So circular economy concept. All right. I see that this concept is new. We will come back to this concept in other lectures. For now, I just want you to understand that most often in media or in even sustainable development governmental programs, you will hear a lot about circular economy models and programs and projects, and most often it is taken equivalently or taken as a sustainable development by itself. But what I want you to highlight here, that sustainable development is, as I was saying already during the first part, is always combination of 3 dimensions: social, economic, and environmental. So circular economy is mainly the environmental dimension. And that's why it's not correct to say that circular economy is sustainable by itself by default. That is what is happening in the world right now. But sustainable development is something more. It's not enough just to take care of the resources and to have environmental friendly technologies and produce less waste. The economic and social aspects as important as environmental. So what we've noticed in the Soviet Union is that there were technologies, but there were no social changes. So there were no cultural shift towards conscious design, conscious responsible use, or being part of these systems. And we were invited with another professor from Samara University to submit a chapter to a book on handbook on circular economy. And we wrote a chapter about the circular economy concept in Russia, from industrial policy towards innovation by co-creation, where the key message is that the innovation, technological, is good, but it's not enough without the social innovation and social changes. Because right now, we already have a lot of innovative designs, how to be more efficient, but we cannot implement them into society because the society is not ready. And if society is not ready, no any technology can be used as it's meant to be. So that was the part of the Soviet Union. People were part of the system, but there was not enough social, cultural shift in order to understand that social, like people and environmental systems, it is a common one ecosystem, and that we depend on each other to some extent. So this is something that you need to keep in mind, if you produce environmental friendly product, you really have to have the good marketing program describing what impact it has, pros and cons, how people are contributing to positive changes to the world by using this product. And during our discussions, during the break rooms, with some of you, we discussed the recycled materials and recycled products. Like that right now, we have a growing market of recycling technologies, but there is a problem that there is not enough consumption. Is either people, consumers like us, we are not ready to buy clothes or other products from recycled materials, because some people think they are dirty or they will break soon or something else, which is completely not true. Or the business companies, big industries, they are also not ready to buy secondary sources. And without this readiness, without social acceptance, no technologies for recycling can solve the problem. So it is a system, and we are part of the system. And this has to be translated to have the cultural shift through the educational programs or through the programs at school and at workplaces. So it's a responsibility of employer to drive both social and environmental changes. By the way, if any of you would like to read this chapter, I'm ready to share it with you, my private copy. So just let me know after or during the class if you would like to take a look at this chapter. All right, here is some summary about why business often gets sustainability wrong. And it could be the lack of the big picture. For example, the common goals, as we discussed, by saving or decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. At the same time, we are posing risks to biodiversity. So we are missing this big picture. We are living in this ecosystem of biosphere where we have always feedback loops. And it is impossible to take care of one of the environmental indicators and to just hope that others won't be impacted. All contribution, positive and negative, has to be accounted for. The other reason could be short-term planning. And this was, for example, the reason in the Soviet Unions, the planning was based for 5 years, and 5 years is relatively short-term planning. For example, the 5 years was enough to design the hydropower from the rivers to gain electricity. But over 50 years, it turned out that damming of the rivers, it stopped the current and changed the toxicity of water. So on the short term, for 5 years, it was good energy source, which is unfortunately still now is called renewable. But from scientific point of view, it's non-renewable if you see at least at the 50 years time period. What else? Communication gap between scientists and politicians is the most important because in science, there is a lot of data and knowledge on how to drive business sustainably or what indicators you can use to see if you're moving into the sustainable direction. And nevertheless, in the governmental agendas, we still see these misnomers like renewable energies, which really depends on the land, on the culture, and on the entire local ecosystem. So there are no common recommendations how to be sustainable. It has to be always taken with respect to the social and environmental context. There is another misnomer that economic model thinks that ecosystem services is like air or water or land, they're for free and they are not essential. So they're kind of by default. But what happens is actually they have cost. And I will show you, I hope we will have time today, example with airspace station, the real cost of this simple ecosystem services like water and air that we don't appreciate on the land. Also, the reason is technological solutions come without the cultural change, and this is what I explained here just before, that it's not enough just to create a product and to sell the product. You are responsible for cultural change related to your product design and use and disposal. Sometimes companies, they focus on the economic profits, on the environmental problems, only on social problems separately. And again, it is not enough. The truly sustainable considers the intersection, or at least one of the aspects of each of the dimensions. And finally, simply, we are lacking the experts. And as I started my presentation today, I am myself environmentalist. I have a doctoral degree in natural sciences, and now I'm a sustainability advisor. So this is something interdisciplinary for for people with system thinking. And we need this kind of expert with open mind who can either combine economic and social changes, or environmental and social, or even environmental at different scales. So what is important is what you are doing right now is to take extra classes, extra schools to diverse your mind, your set of mind, and become really interdisciplinary. Because right now, to become a sustainable development advisor, you have to be at least aware of multiple dimensions at each topic. And that's what this school will provide you with. So I'm sure that this list is not finished, is not complete. And if during this school you will end up with any more ideas that you feel can be improved, let us know and we will update the list. Do you have any questions by now before we go further on? All right, if you don't have questions, then we move forward. And here is the demonstration of how we used to do business since 80s and what it is coming into now. It is basically the change of the concept that business as usual was thinking about buyers, substitutes, industry, suppliers. All this is typical to think about, but sustainable business now realizes that the business itself is within the economy, and this economy has its context, and it is a social and environmental context. And maybe I will be repeating this a few times over the school, but this is really important to understand that business is within the economy and economy is within the society. Because when we try to build economy without taking into consideration the social needs or social facilities, this economy is non-sustainable. And as well as society, which is not accounting for environmental context, such as Germany, when they didn't account for the solar radiation or for the wind conditions, they decided to stop the nuclear industry without the proper environmental context. And right now it is impacting both society and economy and business. So this is what the business is aiming for now, to understand that there is a system of interactions. The same idea is just to demonstrate that even though when business was considered somehow with respect to environment and society, still it was considered be not connected or not interrelated. And then about 5 years ago, sustainable development was mainly called as a triple bottom line development. Even nowadays, you will see this term a lot, triple bottom line. which means that there is an interplay between business, environment, and society, and that sustainable business is in the cross-section of 3. But this is already out of date, and the most recent one, which became becoming still popularized over last 2 years, is the system value, where the business is within the society and the society is within the environment. And to see the big picture, as I mentioned, sometimes we take the ecosystem services such as clean air and clean water as free and non-essential. But this is important to understand that the way we live and breathe and the quality of air and the quality of water defines the quality of our life and our well-being. And this defines the quality of our performance at work and how the economy works. So, for example, our basic ecosystem services is that in average, if we don't have access to clean air during 3 minutes, we start dying. And then 3 days for clean water and 3 weeks for food. And these are some examples that sometimes there are no prices for it, but unfortunately, we're already coming to the situation where we buy a lot of water to have access to clean water, which should be default for us. And it has its price. And also the air. So we can think about masks that we are lacking the free air, or even now you can buy a bottle of clean canned air. And to think about the cost of these environmental services, there is an example of International Space Station where only 6 people, and the price for simple water cycle and air is $100 billion per person. So this could be the true cost if we consider environmental services into the economic model of our business. Because if we do not account in our business model for these economic services now, later on it will have price. And our business won't be sustainable if we won't plan accordingly. Well, for now, I think I will skip it for today. We will have the slides. It's just because we have 10 minutes left. I suggest you, if you have time, to follow this web link to explore how much resource is left in your country. So you will see ecological footprint of your country, compare it to number of people or to population that lives. And it basically says if there is balance or imbalance, if we consume too much, or if there is still biocapacity for us to have the resources. This is example of Russia, where we see that the biocapacity is big, the number is 7, and the ecological footprint per person is smaller. So in total, we still have some space for consumption. But this is only because the size of Russia and not because of our consuming habits. So it could be misleading that on one side, it tells us that, okay, keep going, you can consume as you did, you still have the land to do so. But on the other side, Russia is one of the less efficient countries in resources right now. So our habits really overexploit the resources. So that's why sometimes it's okay to check the countries. This could be valuable for your business to understand if you have enough resources that you need. But if you think globally, and this is what we have to think globally, because we are living on the limited space on our planet, we see that in terms of the planet, entire humanity consumes almost 2 times more than the Earth can provide us per year. So it is important to keep in mind that when we do digitalization or carbon offsetting methods that we will talk later on in other classes, or even immigration, all this impacts the big picture, and the big picture is that we are over-consuming the earth and that we need to change the way of we produce products, we use them, and we dispose them. And this is the concept of planetary boundaries that I was mentioning already a few times. It is a scientific concept that was published in 2009, so it's been already 12 years. And this is a scientific intention to put numerical indicators how much more we can use our planet and its resources until the tipping point, which means that beyond this point, the biosphere cannot reverse to its original balance. So it means that the planet will start degradation and death. It means that we cannot call renewable resources renewable because there is a global system. And there are 9 planetary boundaries, and here you can see climate change is one of them. And the color indicates how far we are in this crossing this boundary from point of no return. And it shows that it is in yellow zone. We still haven't crossed the red zone, so we still can do some changes for climate change. There is another boundary which is called novel entities. It's hard to quantify, and it contains different indicators. For example, microplastic. It is very hard to quantify, and overall plastic pollution is hard to assess, but it is stated as a planetary boundaries. So we create not only plastic, novel entities, we also create new organics. For example, in pharmaceutical industry, we create so many new organic molecules that were not existed in the nature before, that we see changes in animals. The fish is changing its gender. Well, if you're interested in, I can tell you later on a few examples on how pharmaceutical industry is changing the river ecosystem. But good news that scientists, they explore this, and there are technologies how to clean water from organics and how to basically within 5 years we can reverse the changes to river. But it always depends on the rate, how fast we pollute and how fast we can clean. And if we don't start cleaning or doing actions right now, we can go to a reversible point. The other planetary bound is stratospheric ozone depletion. Another one is atmospheric aerosol loadings. Another one is ocean acidification. And maybe some of you have heard about the coral bleaching. Is when the corals, they turn white, and this is mainly caused by the ocean acidification. When pH of the ocean is decreasing due to the carbon dioxide. So when you think that carbon dioxide that is emitted from transport, from industry, from energy production is emitted to the atmosphere, but the atmosphere has its limits. It cannot hold all the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So what happens is that the global ocean tries to absorb the excess of carbon dioxide, and there is more carbon dioxide in water. And what happens when there is more carbon dioxide in water is basically when you drink your sparkling water. When you have your sparkling water, you feel a little bit acidic because of carbon dioxide. So they add carbon dioxide to bottles intentionally to make it more acidic. And this happens naturally because of the too much carbon dioxide emissions to the atmosphere. It leads to coral bleaching and also to dissolution of many shells. So because of the changes in pH, some of the shells and plants, they cannot exist, they start dissolving. Another planetary boundary is biogeochemical flows, and this is about nitrogen phosphorus in fertilizers, how they enter from the agricultural fields to rivers and then to the oceans. Basically, this leads to overstimulation of biomass growth. If you think in the agriculture, we use fertilizers to increase the yield of crops, to increase the biomass intentionally. But then unintentionally, the same chemicals, they cause uncontrolled biomass growth in the ocean. And when there is uncontrolled growth, it means that the resources becoming depleted. It is the same like with humanity. Right now, our population is increasing in exponential growth. And by some point, there won't be enough nutrients and resources to sustain this growth. So when this happens in the ocean, the water turns green or yellow. I think many of you could see in these rivers. It's called blooming of water in the rivers. This is because of the toxic algae they use all the nutrients and oxygen, and fish start dying. So if you have seen the green or yellow water with dead fish, this is exactly what is happening. And as you see by color, this is already in the red zone. So there is a big concern that we are overpassing the point of no return. Another planetary boundary is freshwater use. And this is extreme as well, even though it is marked green. But now there are many concerns that it was evaluated improperly. And there is a problem that it's not the quantity of fresh water, how much we have, but it is a problem of quality. That even though we have enough fresh water for our industry, for example, if we're producing clothes, we need a lot of water. For technologies, for paper, for actually every kind of industry needs water. And right now it's a question of quality of this water. This cannot be used. The other planetary boundary is land system change, is how much is space taken by human and how much it converted for cities and how much it changes the water cycle, and we have floodings and we have desertification. And the last one is biosphere integrity, is basically the biodiversity of the plants and animals that we have, and the rate of extinction is now so high that scientists believe that we already overpassed the point of no return. All right, so this was the concept of planetary boundaries. I would like to let you time right now for any kind of questions. So I think we will stop today's lecture by this. It was maybe intense, considering that you haven't heard about some of the concepts before. So feel free to ask any questions you have right now. All right, if you don't have questions, feel free to ask any other class because you will receive the slides today and you will see some additional links for additional information if you want to take a look by yourself. And yeah, keep in mind that whenever you have time, you can ask questions personally to me or in our WhatsApp chat. I will try to be available as soon as possible and to support with all information that I have. On this, I would like to thank you for today's class. And just let me ask you if everyone has the program, the timetable for the classes. We have two timetables. One is for classes and another one for cultural program, right? Okay, so that's great. Then we just keep using the program. And today, I hope you will enjoy your cultural program. Now it's your time for a break. And just to mention the last administrative thing is that after each class, we have short questionnaire. I think there are 5 questions. It should take you like 2-3 minutes. It's basically yes, no, and 1 comment if you have. Is to keep track if it is relevant to you, if it is understandable to you, if you need anything else. As I told you, the program is flexible. We will do our best to meet all your requirements and interests. So you will see the link in our WhatsApp chat, and see you soon. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.